Hello. Welcome, everybody, to Let's Chat. Welcome in, everyone. I see the popcorn rocking. I got my coffee. Here's to the coffee crew out there. Stay caffeinated, stay hydrated, everybody. I am John Brands, Director of Community, also go by Kawaii Guy all across the internet. Been a broadcaster for the past 20 years, and I'm happy to join you all today. So, what I would love to start off every show is I want to see, we had some great emotes during the emotes only chat, but I always love to see what's your favorite animated emote on Twitch. Post that in there, flood that chat with that. I see Chic, they got their coffee too. Heck yeah. K-Meezy as well. Welcome in, everybody. We have a great conversation today with an incredible broadcaster that loves to take things from the gaming sphere and bring them into reality. This is something that I also did all throughout my career, is how do we make those things that are sort of the intangibles, or at least the things that we collect, or if you're like me in Dead by Daylight, you know, that you collect and pay a lot of money into. We won't address that right now, but I would love to bring to the stage the one and only CyberJoules. Jules, welcome to the show.
What's up? How's it going?
It's
Hi, everyone. My
going
name is
great.
CyberJoules. I'm a little nervous, but it's okay. I'm a tech-based variety streamer here on Twitch. I do like primarily makers and crafting. I'm part of the Twitch Women's Guild, the Twitch Black Guild, the Twitch Pride Guild, and I just do a lot of like crafting and things involving like 3D printing and
I love
electronics,
it.
and combining the two to create some cool stuff.
You got so many people shouting your name in chat right now. That makes me so happy to see. Like, you got a love happening here. So, like, don't worry about the nerves. We'll shake them off. And I figure the best way to do it. Let's start at, how did you begin your Twitch journey? Like, what was that like for you, and how did you first dive into Twitch?
I started Twitch as a viewer mostly. During the pandemic, I feel like a lot of people. And then I started streaming towards the end of 2020, like September-ish, and I did like variety streaming. I tried to do games and things, but eventually after a few months I found like it wasn't me. Like I felt like there was more that I could do with the platform, and that's where I kind of shifted my focus from variety and gaming over to non-gaming and makers and crafting content. And
I
that's what I've
love
been
that.
doing for the past 3-4 years.
Wow. Okay, so obviously, like, when we dive into like the concept of creating variety on Twitch, and we have a lot of broadcasters and likely probably a lot of people in chat who choose variety to start because ultimately they want to figure out what is that thing that I can keep doing regularly on my show and potentially find an audience with. Variety is typically like the slowest burn, you know, when it comes to growth on the service, because ultimately you're sharing a lot of your interests, and some followers will be like, oh, I like that one interest, but maybe not this other one. We see this especially with games, where,
Mhm.
like, let's say a person gets really famous for playing Fortnite, and then they're like, I'm sick of Fortnite, I want to pivot and I want to go do this instead. How was that for like your audience? Because like you were navigating and doing a lot of like different collections of things, and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna solo focus in on creative. How was that for your audience, or did you see a shift in them, or did they get excited with you taking on this new path?
Since I was still like relatively new to Twitch and streaming, I didn't find it too hard to pivot. And those who like stuck around are mostly like really close friends. Like my following
Mm,
at the time was like really small, maybe like, I don't know, 50 or so followers. And I found that mostly the people that also did creative type work stuck around with me, but everyone else kind of just fell off, which is totally fine. Like everyone has their own thing that they
mm,
like. So yeah, when I made the pivot to makers and crafting, um, I still was kind of trying to figure out what to hone in on, and it
mm,
was mostly um, like based on the things I was crafting like years ago. Like I started crafting personally back in like 2013. I was like watching a bunch of people on YouTube. They were making all these cool props and things, and I was like, I want to get into that. So I got my first 3D printer in like 2017, and it was just a little dinky little thing, and uh, It worked for some time. I was able to print out some really small parts. If I wanted to build something bigger, I'd have to cut it up into all these little small pieces
Mm-hmm.
and eventually put it all together. And then I slowly started accumulating 3D printers over the years. And yeah, I just started college. Actually, no, it was after college. Um, and my background is in computer and electrical engineering. So I knew that I could make something pretty cool out of this. And that's when I started building like Daft Punk helmets and
Yo,
proton packs. And I was just doing a whole bunch of stuff. And
yo.
it
Okay,
evolved into what was going on today.
that's so rad. It's similar to like with my start when I was first a YouTuber and like figuring out things. I was similar in that I'm like I kind of want to bring that one thing into real life. I remember working with my buddy Grant, rest his soul, on we were trying to figure out how to build a hoverboard. How do you build a hoverboard and actually have it function from Back to the Future? That's still something I want to do. We ended up there. He did a series on Netflix where we got kind of close to it before his passing. But like some of the other side projects, like I was like, I want a drinkable mana and health potion. So that was one of the first projects I worked on, and we sold it in Hot Topic and Fry's Electronics. It tasted awful. And if anybody out there remembers the mana potion drinks, like they did not taste good, but woo, did they have caffeine in them. And so that was a thing. But I love this idea of this, like you form a love with a property and then you make it into real life. And I guess like what were some of like obviously you mentioned proton packs, so Ghostbusters was one for you. Like what were some of those properties that you were like, ooh, I want to bring this into real life?
Yeah, the main thing that really got me started in combining everything was the like Daft Punk in general. Like I've been listening to
Yeah.
them since like middle school. Like it was no matter how I was feeling, I could always turn to their music and just feel really good. And then I was like, I wonder if I could recreate that. So I the first time I built like 3 iterations, every time getting better. The first time I didn't really know anything about electronics and I was just starting it out in school. So made I found like a model of it through like Pepacura. I don't know if people in the cosplay space may know what I'm talking about, but it's pretty much a software that allows you to take pieces of paper and like kind of puts it together like a puzzle and
Mm.
form like a 3D shape. And you can cover it with like fiberglass and stuff to make it solid. And then you cut out your openings and do whatever post processing work. Um, and I built it. I got the LEDs. I figured out, oh, this electronic package is responsible for making animations and things like that. So that's how I kind of just started with that. And then at some point, I made it programmable so that way I could walk around with like a smartphone and be able to change the animations. And yeah, I just kept building on it. And I see someone asked, what software did they mention? I used primarily Arduino for a lot of my stuff.
Yes. What are some of the other toolkits? Because you mentioned you were navigating through like 3D printers. Like you said, you have multiple now. I guess
Yeah.
what is your like go to? Let's say if a person's interested in 3D printing, what would you recommend to them as like a starting phase? Because like we get that question a lot when it comes to like, oh, I'm starting
Yeah.
out broadcasting. What toolkits do I use for like the crafts that you're doing? What tools would
Mhm.
you recommend a person look into?
The past couple years, Bamboo Lab has been really dominating the 3D space just because you can literally take it out of the box and 15 minutes set everything up and print with minimal issue. So I would say the Bamboo Lab A1 Mini if you're like really getting into 3D printing. It's a smaller surface area, but you'll know like whether or not you'll like the hobby. I wouldn't invest in something like crazy expensive at first. You can probably get it for I think it's on sale now. It's like less than $200. Um, but I would probably say that as a starting printer, I would probably go with that option.
Now, for education wise, because you mentioned obviously you have the background with computer sci and like all these aspects, like with programming, engineering, you have this background innate. So there is aspects of education that you'll need to explore and grow. Um, But like, for example, I think of like when I was first experimenting, I would do a lot of just crafting with molding of like clay or plastics and stuff like that.
Mhm.
I currently am like, let's say, for example, if I'm playing Fortnite, I referenced that earlier, I'm horrible at build mode because when it comes to actual three-dimensional
Yeah, I can't do
spaces
that.
in a game, my brain stops. So, is there like any points of education? You mentioned like obviously YouTube is a great resource with like
Yeah.
tutorials. Is there any like additional educational venues people can explore for
Yeah,
growing in these
mostly
areas?
yeah, mostly YouTube and Google.
Yeah.
Literally, like if you ever want to know anything in the world, just saying, how do I do this? How do I do that? And chances are someone has done it before, especially like these days in the age of technology. You can literally find anything online that you want to learn.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, like I personally don't have a strong like programming background, so a lot of it just came from me maybe finding someone on YouTube that's doing like
Mm,
tutorials on like the structure of a program, um,
mm.
and just kind of practicing on my own outside of that as well, just building up that sort of experience so that way you're more comfortable reaching out and doing some other stuff as well.
So when it comes to that balance of what you're showcasing on a broadcast versus what you're doing offline, what would you say like the percentage distribution is for you right now of like, oh, I want to craft something, I'm ready to bring it to the stage on Twitch versus, you know what, I'm going to test this offline.
Oh, I test it online.
You're like, let's go
I
for it.
yeah. Like I found that on YouTube when I was following a lot of people that like you'll see the final product. You don't really see much of the actual work that goes into it. I'm not
Mm,
afraid of starting from the very beginning, talking with chat like, "Hey, I have an idea. What if we do this?" And then we'll walk through the development steps of how to do it. And then maybe offline, I'll make a more like formulated structure
mm,
on the approach, and then I'll come back to stream saying, okay, this is what we're doing today, and that way I can in a sense kind of content plan
mm,
by working in the background and saying, oh, this like these couple models I can work on this day, maybe I can do some test prints in the middle because I stream twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, so usually around that I'm usually prototyping stuff that I test on stream, and then if I can improve it by the next stream, then that gives me a leg up, so that way we're not necessarily repeating the same work. um,
mm.
but I'm not afraid of making mistakes on stream, and I'll curse and like ask people like, what did I do wrong? Like this past week, on Thursday, I actually did a stream with Beacon. They do like the microphones, the audio content. They actually just released 3D models of their studio and Mix Create, and they asked me
Mm.
to do a stream where I'm actually building enclosures and mounts for their devices. And like on stream, I was just like, oh, I'm stuck on this one part for like 10, 15 minutes because I couldn't just figure it out. So everyone gets the experience of actually being there while I'm trying to learn, and hopefully other people pick up and can learn from that too.
I love that. It's the beauty of live is anything can happen and you should lean into it as a broadcaster. The successes,
Yeah.
the failures, everything in between, you're always growing, especially through experimentation. And if you're not experimenting with something on your broadcast and you're really just kind of going through the motions, you're not evolving yourself as a person. So I love that you're
Right.
just like, I'm going to put myself there and let's figure it out together. And if we don't, okay, well, we learned something in that process. I think that's a
Mhm.
fantastic way to approach in general. When you were talking about like you're a member of several of our guilds, our Unity guilds that are in operation, um, how do you effectively like find your people, like other creatives that you can lean on, or other people that you may enjoy watching? Are there different places that you go to when it's like, okay, I want to find my tribe of creative brains? Where do you
Yeah.
find them?
Yeah, within the guilds, like we'll create our own threads, like, oh, cosplayers, crafters here. So I would usually like go in there. Or I find that if I follow other people that are in the makers and crafting category, and also like in 3D printing, then by extension, I if I'm in their communities, I can get involved and then get to know other creators in that space. And that pretty much happened to me like the past month. um like doing a a charity event with other women crafters in the space, and I got to meet people like Pezliz and Denise. I know these names people don't know, but definitely check out Pezliz. She does a lot of 3D printing and crafting. Um, and just overall, just there's so many people that I feel like I am just meeting, even though I've been in this space for a couple of years. And I feel like that's going to constantly grow. So I'm excited to be able to get to know and join more people in their communities.
Heck yeah. So here's a question for you then, because obviously there's tons of broadcasters, there's tons of creatives out there in the world pursuing either similar stuff to us, or they're creating other types of content out there. How much do you think about like setting yourself to stand out from the crowd to attract in new viewers? Do you think about that at all?
I do sometimes. Mostly I just found that being myself and just kind of doing my own thing, just doing what's interesting to me, and eventually I will find those people that are like, hey, that's pretty cool. Maybe I should go check out this person. So I'm not like super like spread out on too many social media apps. Like these days I'm mostly like on Blue Sky. I'm trying to get away from Twitter. And I don't really have time. You are not alone,
according to the internet. Yeah, a lot of folks are like, okay, there's something there.
Yeah. And I wish I had more time, because I work full time and I don't really have time to like edit. So TikTok and Instagram are just kind of like up in the air for me. So mostly I've just been posting a lot on like Blue Sky, where it's like, okay, maybe I can post an image or two really quick in between like calls or a lunch break or something, just to at least get my stuff out there. But yeah, I've just found just kind of existing and kind of just sharing my work usually attracts a pretty good crowd.
I love that. And it is a tough balance, especially working full time, pursuing creative passions, broadcasting. There's only so many hours in every single day that we have. And in fact, I know there's a lot of people running at like different like scientific experiments and stuff like that. Can somebody figure out how to make longer days? That would be wonderful. Because there's never enough hours to get done everything that we want to.
Not at all.
For prioritization for yourself, how do you choose what to prioritize or what project to prioritize? Obviously, there's a lot of like what you're interested in that moment and what you want to go at. But do you have like levels of prioritization?
Yeah, for sure. Like I always prioritize like people that are close to me. So maybe like after work I'll like check in with like my girlfriend and see how she's doing. And then I'll like talk with my friends for like however many hours, because we're always in Discord like chatting about something random. But usually when I get home, I like to put my stuff down, make some food. Maybe I like coffee a lot, even though it really doesn't do much for me.
There we go. Coffee crew. Where are you at in chat? Where are you at?
Coffee crew. So I'm usually just like taking some downtime. I like hang with my cats for like a few. And then that's where I really start getting into my work, because I usually get home maybe at around 6. But these days I usually don't go to bed till like 2, 3 a.m. And then I have to wake up at like 7. And it's just that I have so many things that I have to do, so many things I have to plan. So it's really hard, and it does take its toll sometimes. I've been trying to focus a lot better on just taking care of myself more. Like I've been going to the gym, I've been doing swimming lessons, I've just tried to step away and take care of myself, just so I'm refreshed and can come back to my crafts with like a clear head and go from there.
That's incredibly valid, and that's something that I think every broadcaster out there, especially those in chat, should be thinking about, is how much time you're giving to yourself to invest in yourself. Because if you're not at 100%, or even like let's say 90%, and all you're doing is broadcasting, expecting some different result when it comes to, you know, whether it's follower conversion, sub conversion, viewership, maybe it's, you know, growth in a game if you're chasing a certain rank or something like that. If that's all you're doing repeatedly, you're gonna eventually burn yourself out. You need to find that balance when it comes to, here's a show, here's the time for me, and ensuring that you have that balance. It's absolutely vital. It's bias says, please get up and go outside sometimes. We had Grass Lord at TwitchCon. It's encouraging people. When we say go touch grass, it's like it's not only good for your body to get out there and observe the world, but you can also find great inspiration by going out into the world, meeting somebody new, having a conversation, just treating yourself to a cup of coffee. I think it was in the series Twin Peaks, one of the characters says, like, give yourself a present every day. Like, just every day, give yourself a little present, whatever that is. So highly recommended to keep the balance when it comes to all of this. And especially in these current times, especially if you're based in the United States, there's a lot that's being thrown at you. And so it's worthwhile to take that time for you. Something to also think about as broadcasters is when you are creating, it is okay to create when you're happy. It is okay to create when you're angry. I think it was I now second David Lynch moment of the broadcast. He said it's one point, like, people always talk about, like, oh, to be an artist you have to suffer. And it's like, no, you don't. When you think of a person like Van Gogh, the painter, obviously he suffered major depression and all these things. Did he paint to be depressed? No, probably the painting was the best part of his day.
His outlet.
And so it's recentering yourself in the mentality of, it's okay how you show up. You don't have to always be the positive person. It could be the frustrated person broadcasting, and that's okay. And it is therapeutic, as they said. So is there like one key thing? Obviously you're exercising, you're mindful to the time, you're even a person in chat said that you have some of the best time management of anyone. For any for any person out there, is there like one thing that you immediately recommend is, like, build this into your schedule as a broadcaster and it will help?
Just be offline. Don't live on the internet. Stay away from socials, especially now, because it's easy to get depressed and you're just feeling down just because of everything that's happening in the world. Yes, it's important, but it's very important to take care of your brain and just kind of just disconnect. Take some time for yourself. Take a nap, like Chell and Ice were saying. Go outside, go touch some grass, go treat yourself to a nice meal. I did that yesterday, or the Sunday actually. I just went out and went to K barbecue just because I felt like it.
Yes.
So it was just don't feel like you always have to push out content. Like, it's okay to just be by yourself, not having to worry about who is watching you, or, oh, how many likes can I get from this post? Just, I don't know. For me, I personally don't pay too much attention to numbers. I was like, if I find the community that's for me, then it'll just come naturally. Like, I really don't pay too much attention. So I don't know. That's just my 2 cents. Yeah, Bulgogi.
Yeah, we got a lot of people that want to join us at K Barbecue, which is wonderful. I really like how you said, you know, don't always be focused on creating content. And I hate the word content in general because it doesn't mean anything, really.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh yeah, every, you know, app under the sun is like, produce content. Yeah, well, you're ultimately building their bottom lines by you just continually pushing stuff. I encourage all broadcasters to think of what they're putting out there as a form of art. Are you creating a show? Are you creating a piece of art? Are you performing art? Like, get away from this concept of just producing content, because there's enough content out there We need art with foundation. We need people who
Yeah.
have a perspective or sharing education. It just needs to have more weight. And this is, honestly, like the troubles when you think of like the Hollywood circuit. There's so many films that get produced mainly just to sell the ticket, but then you watch it and you're like,
Yeah.
I didn't gain anything from that. I didn't feel anything.
Yeah. There are things being remade or remastered that don't need it.
No, we don't need a Goonies 2. Why would we produce a Goonies 2? We don't need it.
Did you hear that they're releasing a new Final Destination movie to
Yeah, there's
traumatize a
another,
whole new generation of
and it's
people?
yeah, it's like we have that. I don't know how they're gonna like get out of those situations. My hope is they don't ignore the cell phone.
Yeah.
Because that's usually like the horror movie bait is like, couldn't you just call on your cell phone to get out of the situation now? That's where like
Exactly.
the early Scream movie doesn't hold up anymore really into that same mechanic. But yeah, I keep thinking about it. And then I just saw it, Labyrinth 2 is being made.
Oh,
And I swear to
I haven't
heavens, if
seen that one.
Timothy Chalamet is playing in the
Oh,
role of David Bowie, I will be so upset. So
Chalamet is David Bowie. That's a choice.
it would be. And I'm just saying,
That's a
Hollywood, don't
choice.
do it. Don't do it. But what I would love to see is like, I think you have some of the pieces that you have crafted
Oh yeah,
nearby. I would love to see some of the things that you have crafted and what inspired the creation.
sure. I think one thing I have in the back, if we were to switch to the full screen, because it's not going to be in frame. So in that back corner is a 5 foot tall doodlebot pencil from SpongeBob that I 3D modeled and printed and painted, and I took that to PAX East last year. That one was inspired by Emily the engineer. She's like big on TikTok and Instagram for like her Iron Man suits and stuff, and I was like, oh, I could do that too. So that really like helped with like building my 3D design knowledge and background, just learning how to use certain software tools. And then one of my main pieces that I usually take to TwitchCon is this Thor's hammer. It's electromagnetic and it actually sticks to
What?
very thick steel surfaces. And there was a trick to it where I would be the only person that's able to lift it up because I would wear a special ring. And because I know a bit about electronics, these are like two batteries on the inside. And then I designed my own circuit board and programmed it with Arduino. So that way there's like a hidden switch on the other side of this. And it's called a reed switch to educate folks, and it's literally like a piece of metal, well, two pieces of metal that are like microns apart, like really small. And if they're introduced with a magnetic force, it bridges that connection and completes the circuit. So I made it so that way, if I were to go next to it and I was near and close enough to the switch on the other side, it'll deactivate the magnet, lift it up, and then I'll just go about my day. So it was fun having people like put it on doors or like random surfaces, and they're like, what, why can't I lift it up? So that's it. This thing is like
I
five
love
pounds,
that.
by the way.
And Shells has seen it in action, stuck it to a street
Yeah.
light next to an IHOP.
Yeah.
So now we have like Thor goes to IHOP confirmed. It takes over.
Yeah, and I have like a couple of random things too. Like, besides like crafting, I love VR and I like do VR things, and I knew that like you could like have your own like VR trackers so that they can track you in the virtual space. And I was like, oh, I could probably make my own. So I did the research, found the parts, and then like designed my own circuit boards and things. I had like different iterations of the thing. First was like really thick, fit in this case. And then I got it small enough where it fits in a smaller case. But I'm working on like a brand new version with this tiny little board. So I'm trying to get it ordered and assembled. I don't know when it's going to get here, but just like some things I have in progress. And then, oh, one more thing, something that I was working on like this past stream. Shout out to Makaji because she gave me the idea. If people watch Inuyasha, I was going to recreate Kagome's bow, and it was going to be a functional bow. So by that, I mean, if I go to knock the arrow, I installed some connectors in the arrow and through the handle. This is going to be the handle of the bow. So once I go to knock the bow and connect it, it actually lights up. So it bridges the connection in the circuit. And as soon as I move it away, it just turns right off.
Yo.
So this is a really simple circuit, by the way. And I walk through it on stream too about how to go about like building something like that. So
That's so rad. Do you get people reaching out of just like when you make these demonstrations, like, oh, can you make that for me for my cosplay? Like, has that started
yeah,
for you at this point? Because I feel like it's going to
yeah.
after this broadcast.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like last year for DreamCon, I made Chell her Lethal Company cosplay. So if you were to like find her on like Twitter or Instagram or even like Blue Sky, you'll probably find an image of the cosplay floating around. And then I've done a commission for a fellow guildie in the Women's Guild, Velvet Van Helga. She wanted me to do this it was a really convoluted project and it was so random. I was like, yes, I'll do it. Absolutely. It was a box that if she were to put an object inside and chat would trigger a command and the bottom would open and it would fall on her head.
Oh,
So
jeez. It's like those dunk tanks, but the opposite is where it's getting dunked on you. Oh my God.
So like there's some fun engineering involved with that, and it was just learning how to using like ESP32 microcontrollers to wirelessly connect to a command in chat to just be able to do stuff like that. And I was just like, I'll absolutely do this for you.
It's so rad. It's like I watch sometimes like VTubers will have things where you could like throw items at VTubers and stuff like that. I
Yeah.
imagine like even my chat when I'm making choices in a game, they would be like, no, bad, and would want to unlock something that drops on my
Yeah.
head. It's taking the concepts of like alert mechanisms and bringing it also into real life in the same way that you're doing with like items from movies or games or stuff like that into real life.
Mhm.
I love this idea where it's like, what if we can get to a stage where alerts are actually more just physical things that
Yeah.
actually appear or trigger in the room? I know there's like lighting connections that people have for alerts that will trigger if you have I'm
Mhm.
trying to think what the brand of lights I have, like you can trigger those
Govee.
commands. Govee, yes. So my Govee
Yeah.
systems can then alter, but like imagine like my entire background. You could open up the Earthbound case and it will come out on an arm and show you on camera versus me constantly gesturing to my, Earthbound collection back here. There's so
Yeah.
many cool things you can do.
Like
Oh
if
my
you
God.
want to know like practical like random stuff going on that you can manipulate, I would check out Velvet Van Helga. She does a lot of ASMR streaming, but
Mm.
chat can either donate bits or I know that one time when she used the command for the box, but mostly it's like donations with bits. It just activates random machines in her room. And I'm just like fascinated by what happens, and I was really happy to like be a part of that and contribute something to her stream that's even more ridiculous, but it's like
Yeah.
super fun to be able to work on that type of stuff.
I feel like that's moving into the evolution of what like Twitch can become, where it's just like there's a lot. I said this on a previous show. There's a lot of art imitating art when it comes to the layouts, the alert systems, and stuff like that. And what you're experimenting with and what you're talking about can move us into a wild future. And it gets people thinking
Yeah.
more about the space around them becoming a part of the show versus just everything being a digital form. I think about that for comedians, for example. If comedians are always like, oh, I'd love to do something on Twitch, but when you're in a live space as a comedian, you rely on the laughter or the oh moment during a bad joke or something like that. You feed off of that response. Twitch chat can kind of translate that, but are there mechanisms, and this is for all the broadcasters out there to think about, are there ways that you can bring the audience more into your physical space in some way? So that way they have impact on the environment that you're in while you're broadcasting. Yeah, there's, several people who have ping pong ball ejectors that will
Yeah.
like fire then at them. I think I saw I think it was Steve Saylor and a few others who will have like a printer print out like a special like D&D sheet and stuff for like viewers in their chat. So there's something there that I just want everybody to like really think about of like, can I move something that's in my setup only in digital form to something in real form, and sort
Yeah.
of like take the inspiration from what you're talking about. Like a lot of this is self-taught experimentation, trying, failing, trying again, succeeding, and there's a lot that can be gained from that.
Oh
And
yeah,
I
for
just want people
sure.
to think about it.
And there's definitely more projects that I want to work on that obviously I have a backlog of things that I work on. I keep finding new things to do and then switching and not finishing them. But definitely one thing on the list is like a interactable LED wall. So I
Okay.
might replace this whiteboard and just have just a wall of LEDs. And that way chat might be able to manipulate it and do whatever. I haven't really thought out the details of that yet. Something that's kind of interactive that I do sometimes. It's not only limited to like crafting stuff, is like special alerts for my stream. Like I have the shooting star meme that actually works whenever I get a raid.
Mm,
So I would go off screen, it'll shoot like a half-second clip and it'll keep looping throughout the entire alert and it'll just navigate itself across the screen in space.
that's so
So
cool.
it's just so I just like to do like random things that I think are actually like really fun. But I do need to upgrade my alerts because I feel like there's just so much to do. There's so much untapped potential in streaming that I feel like a lot of people can benefit from and be original.
Mm.
So
If you were to let's try to forward project here. What
mhm.
do you think the future of streaming looks like? Because obviously, like if we think of the mechanism, it's broadcast, chat, interactive elements overlaid currently. Where do you think it should go next?
I definitely think, as discussed before, interaction in the physical space would be
Mm,
that new level that hasn't been fully realized yet by a lot of people. I think people are tapping into it. I know, like, for the longest time, people that have inspired me, like Sushi Dragon, like the
oh
stuff that
yeah,
he does on his stream, um, and kind of taking that and applying my own sort of je ne sais quoi to make it mine,
yeah.
you know? So
That's rad. Yeah,
just some things.
if you don't know Sushi Dragon chat, make sure you check out the Sushi Dragon. I've known them since back when they were an editor for two of the YouTube channels that we used to work on. But they are basically a living android at this point with the kits that they construct and the ways that they manipulate an environment. Absolutely incredible broadcaster to watch and honestly be inspired by when it comes to, you know, I can take a person in a Sushi Dragon broadcast and transport them to an entirely different environment. Or, oh, I want to change this person into somebody else. They can do facial mapping and all these other things.
Yeah.
It's wild. Absolutely
Mhm.
wild. Oh, look at that. Yeah, Q Vision is actually working on interesting things when it comes to digital to virtual
Nice.
transition. So it's like there's a lot of broadcasters experimenting in these manners, and I
Mhm.
would love to see that continue to push forward because I think it's, if I have a gut feeling, the crafters, the makers, these people who are pushing forward the medium will take strong hold over the medium moving forward. So something to
Yeah.
think about for yourselves as a broadcaster, how you're evolving.
Yep.
When it comes to, I guess, general navigation of the space, I had mentioned like the world is getting very interesting as of late.
Mhm.
How are you thinking about when it comes to like your navigation? Are you going to continue to just stay focused on the projects you're focused on? Do you want to create projects for certain purposes or goals? I know you're building some stuff for the guilds members when it comes to their cosplays. How are you thinking
Yeah.
about like just the space in general for how we can move forward in the space?
I think it's extremely important right now to make sure that we take care of marginalized communities, and the world is changing every day, and there's a lot of negativity that we see online that's projecting a lot of hate, and it's very important that we support each other. So support Black crafters, support your trans crafters. Just try and find someone new that you haven't explored. Check out what they have to offer, and just support them. Really.
Yeah. Keep the
So
door open. Keep the door open and your mind open to obviously like align with the stuff that you're interested in, but like look to the
disabled crafters too. Sorry.
disabled crafters, absolutely.
Yep.
Like when it comes to I know there's a lot of weaponization of the concept of DEI that's happening currently in the United States, but really if you actually say it, it's diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's just being mindful to the spaces you're a part of and open to the conversation. It's not a thing to be weaponized. And so
No, I don't know.
explore for new broadcasters or perspectives, and who knows who you might learn from in the process. It's a great way to approach the world and honestly grow together. And that's
Yep.
how we should be thinking, is like, if we do support each other and we do, lean on one another, we amplify creators or builds or things that they've done that are great, celebrating other successes, that increases the greater streaming landscape in general. Because when we think of the way that like Hollywood acts, or like traditional media looks at us, they look at the broadcaster or the YouTuber as sort of like a lesser being, and just like, oh, you're not creating on our level. But in reality, we are. And quarantine proved that. So I think it's just one of those things of like, we all grow together if we support one another. So
Yeah.
I strongly encourage
And like
that.
I said, it's really not hard to treat people like people. Like
That
how is people just simply living their lives? How does that affect you on a personal level? It doesn't. People are just doing what they enjoy and what they love and living in their truth. So it's just better. It's just extremely important that we all support each other.
I like that. And I like what a Mandalorian animal lover, great name, wrote: treat others the way you want to be treated. It's very easy. Treat others the way you want to be treated. It's a very simple thing to do. What are some of the other broadcasters that you're inspired by? You mentioned a few on the show today.
I have a list.
Yeah, there we go.
Other people that are my friends, Gray Overcast Art, It's by Ice, who's in the chat, K Meezy, Makaji, Chelava Gamer, other creators like crafters, Kim for the Day, Idio Sinanka, and Dalo.
I love it. And is there a through line with all of them that really inspires you, or like you love watching with them?
Yeah, recently I've just been in Kim for the Day's stream. Like I just found her, and just like the amount of cozy chaos in her stream is actually really fun. And she does a lot of crochet, but she also like does a lot of paleo. So she's always highlighting other like crafters in her space, which I really enjoyed. Like the other day, she went through her Discord. People were posting all the things that they were working on, and then she was like going through and like showing love to other creators or crafters in her own community, which I thought was really amazing.
I love that. It's I know one person I'm always inspired by is Ash Said Hi. How after every broadcast they do, if they receive raids, they film a video and thank the people who raid them, and they post that to socials afterwards. And I'm like, wow, that's a great,
That's awesome. You don't
I don't know if
see anyone doing that.
I never get a thank you. I know, like when I think of life, it's just like when I get the occasional thank you note or something, I have a little wall board that I will pin it to, of just like, wow, isn't that nice to receive? Like people rarely do like handwritten notes or anything like that, but to do a video celebrating a raid is great. When you are like working on your networks of individuals and stuff like that, as you're building out the people around you, How often do you collaborate with them on a broadcast or on a project, and you actually work together on something? Would you say, or like, how do you think about collaboration
Um,
in general?
I mean, I love collaboration. I find that a lot of the times when I do collaborate, it's mostly like gaming related. But I would
Mm,
definitely love to do more like crafting collabs. I've been in like a charity stream with some other women and crafters um, last month, so it really gave me the ability to like network and meet new people in the space that I probably
mm.
wouldn't have met otherwise. um, and I lost my train of thought.
No, you're good. You were talking. Okay, so you'd mentioned before we started the call, we were talking about Marvel Rivals. Now that's a collaborative game. It can also get,
Oh yeah.
salty if you're playing with Espy and Fats on my team. They get pretty gung ho in on it. But I think, like, obviously leaning into the multiplayer titles, I do a lot of Dead by Daylight on my broadcast. That's been my
Mhm.
go-to, and I love collaborating across the board. If there's any survivors out there that want to join tonight, come in my
Yeah.
broadcast. I will love to survive with you tonight, or mess up your checks for you while we're working on a generator together. Um, but like, there was a project you had mentioned, or at least teased. You're working on something for Marvel Rivals to bring to the real world.
Yeah. So, Shell of a Gamer in chat. I spoke to her recently about doing a Hella cosplay for her. So she still owes me. I need the diameter of your head because I can't work on it otherwise. And we're gonna do one of the skins for Marvel Rivals. But other than that, I plan on like looking at some like the weapons from the characters. That usually I like things that like actuate and move around and try to
Yes.
kind of replicate that on like a physical scale. Um, and the other project that I mentioned in the background was nostalgia and like bringing back things from the past. So I was thinking about doing a build series of the 2x4 technology from Codename Kids Next Door. But in order to do that, I need to close out the project that I'm currently working on before I get into that, because I think it'll be like super fun to just every week, not every week, maybe like every 2 weeks to a month, because I have to be realistic. I can't like rush through these things. Because there's like a whole process of like, oh, what device do I want to make? What materials do I need? What's my budget? Because right now mostly I'm doing all this out of pocket. Like
Yep.
so so most of that stuff requires a little bit of planning, but yeah, like Codename Next Door is like one big one from my childhood that I really want to tap into um in these coming months. And I'm working on like a big build for the year. So right now I'm actually working on an Ironheart build. So if people don't know Ironheart, they are the successor of Iron Man in the comics, and she's Tony Stark's successor. So Riri Williams. So I'm working on building the entire suit right now. Like I literally printed out like multiple parts. I like bought the model and I'm slowly printing out the suit and I'm almost done. Like I have the legs in the background that I can bring up really quick.
Yeah, we'd love to check this out. It's wild to me because what you're working on, it reminds me of my buddy Grant. He built a full Iron Man suit as well, and oh my heavens, that
Yeah.
thing is gonna
So
weigh a ton.
I mean right now this leg alone probably I would say weighs like 2-3 pounds. But yeah, there's gonna be the whole suit's gonna be built and I need to like cut out certain sections and do some like electronics, do the lighting, maybe some servos. I'm thinking of like fog machines. Like I'm trying to go all
Yo,
out. I don't necessarily have a deadline. Originally my deadline was the end of June because I know that's when the series actually comes out for the show. But it's winter up here, so the thing that I'm really trying to figure out is like painting and sanding. I can't necessarily do that
mm,
indoors, so I have to wait until probably the March April timeframe to start that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's a project that I've been wanting to do for a while, and then yeah, I just try to do like one major project a year to see like if I can actually do it.
You're such an inspiration of somebody who just says, you know what? What if I could make that? And you just go for it. And there's
Yeah.
so many, I like, even when it comes to like pitches that come into Twitch, or like creators will come to me and like, oh, you know, I want to do this, but then just don't take that next step.
Yeah.
And you're such an inspiration of somebody just like, you know what, I want to do that. Okay, I'm gonna start making that. I'm gonna start making that and like running at it. Or that's a year-long project, or this is a short-term project. And what are ways that I can plus up it when you're talking about
Mm-hmm.
adding additional servos, or if you're adding in like LED components, or like I know there's like a lot of the wrappable screens and stuff now you can purchase, and
Yeah,
they're flexible.
it's really cool
It's
stuff.
I feel like there's just like, as they said, there's no stopping cyber. There's no stopping you at the progression you can make. And I really encourage broadcasters to really look at CyberJoules as a true inspiration to space, and somebody to look up to in regards of, if they can do it, I can do it. And especially with the folks that they surround themselves with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Manifesting
I see
greatness.
all my
Hands
friends
down.
in the chat. I love you
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah, obviously being plus up, and like even Precious is one of my collaborators there with the Kawaii heart, which is probably tattooed on my hand. Like these are the people you want to look up to, internet, and Jules, you are absolutely no exception. With that, we're approaching the end of our show, but I want to give you a chance to shout out, like, obviously you said you do Tuesday and Thursday broadcast, or like what's coming up next, or what can people tune into and catch you doing next?
My next stream is actually tonight, because today is Tuesday. I stream Tuesdays and Thursdays, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on this here Purple app. Tonight, I honestly didn't have a chance to like fully plan, but oh, I am working on, I don't know if people have like played Destiny 2, but I'm in the process of
You don't know
building
if
one
people
of the
played an incredibly popular game? You ever hear of this
Look,
little game? It's
look,
on Steam,
yeah,
I
it's been
think.
around for 10 plus years. Who knows? Like, you know, but I don't know if people still play. Like, I mean, I do. I play it all the time. They got a new Star Wars thing out, by the way. I'm building one of the exotic swords, the Lament.
Yo,
I didn't model this myself, but shout out to Anarchy Props. I got it from their, I think it's their Cults 3D or their Patreon. I don't remember. But yeah, it's gonna be, I don't even know how long this is gonna be, but right now it's reinforced by a long 3-foot steel rod, and I have a second one. So I'm thinking this thing is gonna be at least like 4 feet tall at the end of the day.
that's gonna be, that's right up there with the Buster
heavy.
Sword.
Yeah. So it's gonna be fun.
That's so impressive. Now with something like that, when you're printing it, it's printing in components and then you glue them together?
Yeah. So depending on the size of the printer, you're quite limited in the size of the part. So for a lot of this, I actually had to cut it into like maybe in half. Like mostly like the long body parts, cut it in half and then just print those separately. And I just have my printers running in the background. Like it just, one of them just finished a print just now. So
you're running around the clock. This is absolutely
Yep.
wild. Well, everybody in chat, make sure you toss that follow, press the heart button. Don't leave me heartbroken for CyberJoules. They are incredible. I'm going to shout out a few more shows that are coming onto the service here pretty soon. Average Jonas is actually going to be launching a concert series called Average Jam. They're going to be inviting on Twitch streamers to perform music live. So similar to the concepts of creating and collaborating together, they're going to be doing a show on this Friday, February 7th from 4 to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time at twitch.tv/averagejonas. Make sure you check that out. Also, there is a big short film contest that's being operated by Cutie Cinderella. They're partnering with Zenless Zone Zero to do a romance-themed short film contest. So this is both broadcasters are encouraging people to expand beyond what we typically see on Twitch. Twitch is not just gaming. There's a lot of great game creators. I'm playing Dead by Daylight tonight. I love my games, but there's people who create amazing work all across the service in different ways. And just expand those horizons. As a viewer, expand your own horizon as a broadcaster. I encourage you to check out both of those shows in addition to CyberJoules. We are going to send the raid on from this show to another crafter. Sananka, I believe, is who we are going to raid out to. And tell the audience a little bit about Anka. What do they do?
Anka is an amazing cosplayer. She makes a lot of stuff live on her stream. She knows how to sew. She also does some 3D printing and 3D modeling. I know she's like doing some co-working stuff. She's bilingual. She's like learning Spanish, about to go to Spain. She's doing all these amazing things, and I just want to show her the love because I met Anka, or at least got acquainted with her like over a year ago. And she's constantly doing great things, and we're always like bouncing ideas off each other and asking for advice. So if anyone ever wants to learn anything about cosplay, I would check out Anka, for real.
Awesome. Well, that's where we're going to bring the crew today. Jules, you're an absolute beacon in this industry, and I wish you nothing but success as you're going forward. Obviously, everybody should be supporting them. And I just wish all of you a great rest of today and an even better tomorrow. I appreciate y'all watching. We'll see you next time here on Let's Chat. Take care, everybody.
Bye, everyone.